I have to get a handle on my own life. Excuse this. This is my bags that make my feet not hurt when I'm stepping on them. I used to carpeting and my injuries. But I have to get my life in order and handled. And the first step to that is to cope with this in some form or another. I've already kind of told the designer this was something I was sent to try to play test. My intention was to, I'm not actually entirely sure what all the decisions were, because I had two playtest things coming out at once. To one extent, I think it was just kind of a, hey, I'd love for you to take a look at this, you know. But the other, and I'm not sure any output was expected, but I did already tell him, look, I can't do what I first intended, which was to try to play test it on video the way I normally do. What I found was the rules are still in such an early development stage that the rules, the components, everything is shifting so much that I'm having a really hard time, you know, getting a grip on things. My brain is very ossified, and I don't have a lot of time to devote to any one thing. So what ended up happening was my avoidance mechanisms kicked in. This is the Troubles covering. It's a coin design covering the the situation in Northern Ireland. Now, part of my problem is there's no map key, and I don't know my Northern Ireland all that well. So I look at this and I'm like, I think this is the Northern Ireland border, and Ireland's over here because Ireland is supposed to be part of the game. This is the kind of state that I have trouble seeing, and I don't see anything that indicates like an Ireland box outside. So I think the dark green versus light green indicates that. The light green indicates rural areas in Northern Ireland. I guess these are rural in Ireland, but I'm not quite sure how much loyalist power or anti-union power there really should be in Ireland itself, but especially near the border, but I just don't know how much impact the English would have, and the pro union or pro. I don't even know how to call it because I'm so poorly versed with that era. You know, I have some knowledge, but very, very little. Just the news reports from the time, really. And then over here, you have an inset which breaks out. I guess Dublin. Is it Dublin or Belfast? Jesus, no, Belfast. Sorry. You see how bad I am. Okay. Right. And then again, I don't know what this town is here. That's an urban area. My knowledge of Ireland and the struggles is very poor. However, what things interested me and got me kind of excited right away is, one, this was supposed to be more than 4 players. Now, the rules I have indicate maybe up to 8. But the actuality is it's a 6-player game maximum. Again, there's going to be bots, all that kind of stuff. Another thing that really caught my interest is this is more of a modern Western democracy than has been covered in any of the other coin games. The other coin games that we've seen have been, well, I don't know how you deal with like Liberty or Death or whatever it is. But the other coin, not having played it, but the other coin games are usually something where there's an autocratic regime in play. And in some sense, you could say there is a semi-autocratic regime in play in terms of there's the British government as the coin main troops. But there's a fair amount more than just the hearts and minds here. There really is a democratic, parliamentary seats, etc., in play here, which means that the game actually is going to represent those. And that was something I was very curious to see. Another thing was, that's 6 players. Why is that so interesting? Well, because it's still using the base coin mechanism here of a single card generates two activities, basically. And out of the 6 players, you have an ordering, which is listed here. These cards are very rough. Some of them have their picture, but they have notes. But again, these are all in flux. This is in an early stage of development. But the idea of like the two actions in a 4-player game works very well. Usually, well, it has a certain pattern to it. I don't know whether it works very well, and that breaking that pattern may actually be a very interesting thing. Where one player, where one player picks his action, going in the order here, and then the remaining players who have a turn available have kind of the choice of, do I want to pass or do I want to take a lesser action? And that choice is usually very, very easy because, if you don't take your action, you may not be an early chooser on the next card if you have the opportunity to take an action. So you may be giving up quite a bit on a gamble, I don't know what you're looking for. But even if a card is not particularly good for you, you may choose to use it in that secondary action just because your expectations of getting any action off the next card are probably about 50-50. And again, it depends on what's going on. So if 2 people are here and 2 people are here in a coin game, you almost retain a pattern where people seldom pass. It's almost continuous throughout the game, where people keep passing because, or people don't pass because taking that action, no matter what it is better than taking a chance at getting any action at all. And the chance that your action is going to be significantly better than what you have right now, even if you get it, is not necessarily all that high either. So it's only if you have the first choice on the card that it's necessarily a good thing. On the other hand, there is an advantage to passing. You do get a little bonus off of if you get the choice to pass or to play. You get like a resource bonus or whatever. So every now and then it happens. But with 6 players, I think that's going to raise the stakes even more. Which is to say, if you get the option to go, it's even less likely that you will want to pass because the card's not terribly good for you, which is something I'm kind of curious about. I don't see any particular difference in the cards where they heavily, some of them have political impacts, but where they heavily sort of help another player along a lot. It looks to me like the person choosing, the person who's the main recipient of the card, or the 2 people who are the main players on that card, are going to be the ones who get the big benefit off playing an event. And playing the card for an action is your normal play for an action. It doesn't do anything else. And again, I looked over the different actions, which are spelled out here. And yes, some of them can help other people. So there might be times where, hey, I'll pass if you do this action. You're not bound by it, but that kind of agreement could come into play a little bit, and we'll see what's going on with that. One of the issues that I had with this was, I started to set it up, and I couldn't. First of all, I wasn't even sure how many players it was. The designer returned that to me and answered, but somewhere or another, I found the setup. So that's one of the problems. I don't have a hard copy of the rules, and printing one out doesn't make sense. And I have a really hard time with electronic copies. So I'm trying to work with an electronic copy that has fonts that are, not in the best presentation, etc. And remember, I have enough trouble with a fully, developed game. It's kind of weird that I agreed to do this. But basically, I set these pieces, and I'm like, well, that seems to be everything for the factions. I understand these guys are something different, but I have a whole bunch of what look like faction pieces that I'm not sure what they're supposed to be. Now, these, I don't know. Yeah, I just could not figure out what all I had, because again, it's early in the stage and it doesn't have this significant, when you get the fully prepared and ready game, and that's what I'm mostly used to when I do a playtest type thing or a preview. I haven't actually done a playtest before, but I got another one coming. I hope I can do better. It looks like it's in close to publication. What you're really looking at from me is probably a blind test, and I don't think that I can handle something in an earlier stage. Just because, for one thing, I have a really hard time reaching out to people and asking them questions. So I'm actually really good for a blind test because I will detect and show you where there are problems, but I'll show them very early on. So that's, and then the rest of what I do is kind of useless because it's just one video. But the other, so I'm not suggesting it in any sense. And then the other thing is that, I mean, just my poor brain. My poor brain does not catch up with change, so this constant change and everything. I could have handled this back when I was 20, 25. Nowadays, not so much. It's kind of funny. One of the things that keeps me from designing games is I feel like I should be getting them something that is damn near playable, perfect, ready to be produced. And then be seeking out, okay, we're looking for balance issues. We're looking for stuff like that. The stuff that and as well, did I get it right when I, handed you your kit or whatever? So that's, kind of like, I totally respect that people can put things out, in sort of like this form that other people can work with, but not me. But what I wanted to do here was I wanted to give you guys kind of like a little preview of this, as well as feel like I'm not completely screwing over the designer who sent me something. This is an exciting idea to me, especially with the multiplayer thing. Yeah, going up to 6 players. I think that's really, really intriguing. And the concept of, rather than just taking care of what is the hearts and minds situation, the overlay on that of a real consequential in game terms political system that's in play, and what affects, so the idea of an electoral cycle being overlaid on top of that, how does the populace feel, is an extra layer of detail that I think is really, really intriguing. And I'm not saying that should never be there. Like, my feeling is kind of in something like Fire in the Lake or Andean Abyss, it might have applied because controlling the local government might be of some importance in a way that's not easily represented just by how much the populace is there. Incumbents, etc., have some importance, and you might be able to remove them using, operations. It may be a level of detail too far, but it's the kind of thing that kind of excites me because coins have sort of, modern coins have sort of started feeling very the same to me. In fact, right away they kind of did. Because of that level of abstraction, I felt like I was kind of playing something like Andean Abyss on a different map again and again. In part because I don't really internalize the actions very well. I learn the couple that work well in general, and then hunt down what my opportunity is at any given time. But I'm not really getting them as a part of the storyline. Now start adding politics to it, and you might just be capturing the missing piece for me to link between that hearts and minds and the government control of the area and stuff like that. So that's really appealing to me, actually. And I am excited about this one, and hopefully we'll be able to get you something on it once it actually comes out. But at this stage, whatever input I could give is so minimal. I can see a few things. One, I notice, I don't know how easy this is for you to see, but the map is feels rather large to me, within the realm of what you could go in a GMT box, but then these little spaces are awfully tiny. So we're gonna probably be seeing, take a look at what the counters are. These aren't the big discs that you have, although larger ones would certainly fit, for bases. the cubes are about the normal size, but I'm seeing these little slices. So instead of full-size counters to track this, you're probably going to have smaller pieces that may be a little bit of a pain to manipulate, whatever. The information in these looks very, very small, again, to fit on this map. Now there is, I think, a little extra space here and there, so there might be some work development can do to put things out. It might be possible to get some of these tracks on offset cards, but again, that increases the amount of table space the game takes. So, you know, there may be a little bit of a difficulty. Those guys fit cool. In matching everything out. Anyway, I wanted to give you guys a look at it, both for my moral state and also, I mean, my moral state being part of this, but I could not go forward in my life until I do something with this. And like, the initial decision was, yeah, I'm just going to clean it up. And I'm just like, no, I can't face that. And I've spent a week or more basically facing the consequences in my mind of saying that. And this is a horrible time for me anyway because of injury and taxes. I have another one of these that I agreed to play test, again in better shape in terms of further along in the development process, that's sitting on my mind. And then I've got I need something to spark me to go forward, and you'll see what that is pretty soon. So I'm gonna kind of cheat a small game in between here. And of course I haven't played any Vietnam or anything either, you know. Just everything starts loading up on me. And then I also have the concept of, gee, someday I had to straighten up like my house and like try to get things in order and understand them. Anyway, a cluttered floor indicates something. All right, going up.